I'm Gene Price with Redmond Hunt.
And I'm Kirt Conley with Redmond Hunt. This week on Beyond the Rock, we want to talk about that first critical trail camera pull.
Yeah, so you know, your first trail camera card pull. You know, when July 4th hits for me, it's time to get serious. All my sights are freshened up. You know, I've got some cherry bomb out, and I'm trying to get my numbers together. I'm trying to get all of my mature bucks on the camera. I want to know which ones are there, how consistent they are. And I let it run for 30 days. So I put them out July 4th. The first week in August is my first true card pull. I keep my cameras out before then, but you know, we just kind of float in and out. You know, we might not check them for 2 months, you know, or whatever. It's not real critical. We just want to see, you know, kind of what's out there, and the kids like looking at them really super early like that, you know. But when July 4th hits, it's game on. We sync control. Most of my trail cameras, you can pull up to them on a side-by-side, or if I'm out planting or spraying or something, I can step down on the steps of my tractor. I can change my cards out. So it's game on at that time. And so that's our August 1st pull. And that has all of our information that will lay the base for us for the deer that we're going to hunt in the fall. So, you know, one of the things that we look at are what bucks we actually still have, you know, and what bucks are there. So we create files for them. We don't just go in and download our card to our computer and everything's scattered and we don't know. We actually organize every week, every card pull, and we have every file for every buck that we have named. We do name all of our bucks, and then we have a miscellaneous, you know, that will, when you open that folder, it comes to new bucks, comes to immature bucks. You know, we don't do every buck because we don't do our little 2-year-olds and 1-year-olds and stuff like that. You know, we just kind of discard them. If they're big branched antlers, some 2-year-olds we will. If they're special 2-year-olds, we'll start an early file on them. And you know, some of them we've had 5 years of files on them, you know, before we harvest them at 7 years old, and you know, hopefully 7 years old. You know, a lot of our bucks, some of our bucks do get that old. You know, we really try to manage hard. But that first card pull is so critical from there on out. You know, some of the biggest mistakes that people make, the number one mistake that people make, that a lot of you guys, I talk to you at trade shows, and I'm a pretty critical guy when I look at trail cams. You guys show me a lot of trail cams at trade shows, and I'll flip through, you know, and it'll be this deer. I'm looking at dates, you know, it'll be like August 5th, you know, and August 7th. And then he'll say, okay, let me show you this. Then it's another card pull at August 10th, you know, August 12th. And then he'll show me another card pull, and it's like the 18th. And I'm like, hey, how many times are you going checking your camera? He's like, dude, I can't stand it. I check it 3 times a week. I was like, you're never going to kill this deer.
You know, you're in there way too much.
You're in there too much, man. You're educating him. You know, stay out of there. If you can afford cell cams, by all means, don't ever pull another card. Buy a cell cam. You know, and that eliminates, for the guys who have to check their cards every week or twice a week, that is the most God-sent thing, and the best money you will ever spend is a cell cam, the money for a cell cam. And for harvesting. I mean, you can go out there and check them all the time. You're just probably not going to harvest that mature buck. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that guys make, are they just check their cameras too much. And, you know, the second mistake, I see a lot of guys, you know, even if they're checking them once a month, you know, they'll jump out of their side-by-side, you know, in their tennis shoes or their work boots that they wore all day. You know, they'll walk around, they'll look around, look how big the tracks are. You know, they might walk over to the edge of the woods, you know, and look down over the edge of the woods and kind of look around and, you know, run their hands on the beans as they're walking through their beans and stuff like that, you know, just kind of out there mingling around the area. Guys, do not do that. You know, we just call it a footprint. We like to leave zero footprint on the farm, you know, whether that be touching a branch with your hand, you know, wearing scented clothes from work or your truck or something like that, old boots, you know. I mean, I actually have a pair of mucks, you know, that they don't get worn anywhere else except in side-by-sides, tractors, mineral sites, stuff like that, if I do have to get out. Most of the time when I go to refresh in a mineral site, I mean, I'm kind of this anal about it. You know, I'll jump up on the seat of my side-by-side, I'll step around the cage, step in the bed, you know, and I'll do all my mineral site work out of the bed of the side-by-side. I don't need to get on the ground, you know, and then I'll jump down. And, you know, if you're doing it in a truck, it's a little different situation then. You just need to be really, really careful and put the least amount of scent in the smallest footprint you can in your areas. And those two things, checking your cameras, you know, frequently and putting too much scent down, I think that's the two biggest errors that guys make, you know. And you can get into it a little bit deeper, which we'll go into on how to set up a mineral site, you know, as locations and things like that. Guys make a lot of mistakes there too. So if I had any tip for you, check your trail cameras the least amount as you possibly can, you know, maybe once a month, or buy cell cams. You know, that's the ultimate way, is cell cams. We've changed our entire farm to cell cams. We don't have any, we have a few, I can't say we don't have any, but we have a few SD card cameras, you know, still running, but most of ours are cell cams now. And just when you're at that site refreshing it, don't be walking around everywhere. Try not to stand on the ground, and you'll be much more successful, you know, with your mineral sites and your trail cameras and your card pulls. You won't see on that first card pull that 180-inch deer or your biggest deer, a 5-year-old deer, and then your second card pull, you should still see him there just as much. Your third card pull, you should see him there just as much. And it will kind of start going down depending on what you're using in front of your cameras. We'll get into that discussion a little bit later too, what to do when they start backing off of minerals. You know, but you should consistently keep seeing your target deer at your camera. A lot of guys say, oh no, he just eats there in the summertime and he winters somewhere else. That's not usually true. You know, usually if they're there during the summer, you know, and it's coming around to September, as long as you've got some food there or something in front of the camera for him to come to, he should still be coming there. The reason you don't see him anymore is because you've educated him and he's left because of you, not because he wants to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think a lot of people don't. When you really start, quote, hunting that deer on those first pulls, I mean, you have to think about scent, you know, maybe even a little bit. Do you ever think about the wind when you go in too? Like you don't want to bust them in their bed. I mean, things like that we think about. Obviously, we think about it September, October, November when we're hunting, but very rarely do I hear anybody talk about, hey, you know what, I'm worried about scent control, the wind, everything in July and August, and that's really critical.
Yeah, wind is a factor. You know, with us, I don't worry so much about the wind because we are in our fields. We farm, so we are in our fields quite a bit. You know, but we're always out in a tractor, we're always out in a side-by-side, or we're always out in a truck. So they're used to some scent, some sound, things like that. But you know, the biggest, like if you have to walk to an area that you can't get a tractor to, and you have a trail camera back there for some reason, which you shouldn't have if you can't get to it easily accessible, you know, by a vehicle or that means, then you could. I know electric bikes are real popular right now. A lot of guys are using electric bikes. So I mean, if you're using an electric bike, you should probably watch your wind because the majority of the wind's hitting your body and pushing it into a bedding area. So so in some cases, you know, wind direction can be a huge factor on checking trail cameras in your mineral sites and such. So,
and lots of times we get accused of being OCD, but that's what it takes to kill the big bucks. I mean, you talk about people that, you know, I see these big deer on my cameras, and then they don't harvest them. And these deer are smart. I mean, it's all these little things that add up. They make a big difference.
Exactly. We were just talking a little bit earlier, you know, about how much time do you spend scouting versus hunting, you know, and actually how much time does it take to actually harvest a mature buck. And you know, and I haven't harvested all these deer myself, but I've been sitting right with my grandson, my granddaughter, our contest winners, our guests that come in, myself, you know, my wife or whatever. But the last 16 deer harvested with me sitting in a tree stand, with the exception of my granddaughter last year, she's 6, we set 17 times.
It was a great time, though.
It was fun. I loved it, but I loved it. It was a great time. You know, she was a little bit of a different hunter, you know, but we ended up doing it, you know. But with the exception of her, the longest time that we actually sat in a stand for the last 16 bucks has been 5 days. Most of my last 4 deer that I've killed has been 1 or 2 days that I've actually sat in a stand. Most of the time, I couldn't see over the hill from this one area I like to hunt, generally know where they come out of. You know, last year, I sat in a stand one day, killed a 174-inch deer. The year before last, I killed a 173-inch deer. I sat in a stand 2 days. I sat in there one day in the stand I usually sit in my lock on. He came out in a different corner. And I was like, okay, so I moved back to that corner, and a climber. I harvesting that night. You know, so, but now that's not all I hunted these deer. I've hunted these deer all the way since my first card pull. One of the best resources you will ever find in the whitetail world is Dr. Grant Woods with Growing Deer TV. You know, if you haven't subscribed to Dr. Grant, you're doing yourself a disservice. And the second is a great organization that has a tremendous amount of information, you know, is the Quality Deer Management Association or National Deer Alliance. You know, those two organizations are sister organizations. You know, I don't so much follow the National Deer Alliance so much, you know. I do the Quality Deer Management Association. All of those guys in those organizations, they will all, you know, you can find articles online. They will help you out so much with some of these card pulls, things like that, how to decipher them. You know, that would be great resources for everyone to know about.
Yeah, this has been a great topic. I know we've gotten a little long-winded here, but I hope you guys all find this really interesting. And you know, you mentioned it a little while ago about, hey, it's about that time of year when these bucks are going to start, you know, leaving Trophy Rock. And I hope you'll join us next time, because that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about when these bucks start to leave, what can you do? You know, you're pulling those those cards right now, and you're seeing these deer, but they're about to go hard horn, and they're not going to need that mineral anymore. So make sure you join us next time when we talk about, you know, what to do in that case. And like always, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, and catch you next time.
Yep. Hey, we appreciate you guys. See you next time.